A word to the wise. We are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes as well as entering spoiler territory. If you aren't caught up with us, that would be through the entirety of Gideon the Ninth by Tasman Muir.
Welcome to Words and Whiskey Short Pours, a monthly podcast where we have a fun time discussing fictional worlds and the people that create them, all while boozing just a little bit. My name is Cross.
And my name is PJ. And as you can tell, we're already having a lot of fun this episode.
It's been like 30 seconds and we've already fallen off the rails so far. And today we're going to talk about Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir with our incredible recurring guest, actress and writer, Piéra Forde.
Hello. Thank you for having me back again.
Yeah. We're so glad to have you back. It's an awesome time every time. So
Stop it.
Well, we tried to make something happen in December and it fell through. And so it's like, yes, finally.
I'm very glad for this.
Yeah.
Very glad.
Yeah. Very excited. So before we fully dive in, we are in completely different time zones. It is 9:30 for you, obviously, and late for us. Well, not that late.
What time is it?
It's actually reasonable. It's 7:40, so it's not as late as it was last time. This is nothing. I don't know why I said late.
No, to be fair, I've been in bed at like 6 p.m. every day for the last week, so I cannot complain.
Fair. Yeah. So it would be late for you.
Yeah.
But before we do that, let's talk about what we're drinking. We're running all over the place. It's fine. We're good. Gassed up. PJ, what are you drinking?
I had this grand plan to do a necromancer because of the themes of the book. And then we looked back on our old document, and that's what I made last time you were on the show. So
literally the last time.
Theme. It's a running theme. Honestly, I wouldn't have noticed. You could have sold it to me and I would have been like, great, sounds like a great time.
Yeah.
How original and new.
Yeah, exactly.
I copied some of the notes over from that, and like, because I was like, oh yeah, we'll just borrow some of the notation or whatever. And I called PJ and I'm like, did you know that you had a necromancer last time?
And God forbid you drink the same thing twice.
Yeah,
right, absolutely
disgusting.
But instead, I did a hurricane. So 4 ounces of rum. I did 3 ounces of white rum and 1 ounce of overproof rum, 2 ounces of lemon juice, and 2 ounces of passion fruit syrup served over crushed.
That is
good Lord.
Much rum.
It's a lot of rum.
Yeah,
it's a lot of rum.
No joke.
Just went full tilt.
Absolutely all the way in. Jesus, that does sound delicious, though.
I think it might be for two. I think it's supposed to be for two, or it's just a large cocktail.
And I'm home alone in my basement for this evening, so it's just
my dogs are
going
here.
Off. Please, for the love of God, do not feed your dogs. Sorry, it's the inner zookeeper innovatness in me coming out being like, haha, funny, but there are people who do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't be that guy.
I'm not going to be that guy. Don't worry.
Cool. That sounds delicious. Piéra, mom life, what are you having?
Well, considering I still have a tiny tit sucker. Yep.
Yes.
Not much. Today I'm getting high on water. Yep.
Excellent.
Okay, to be fair, in my defense, I've already had my tea and I'm doing one of those like weird 6-week challenges where I'm like trying to get fit in my body back. And so I have like a limited amount of what I actually can drink. Hence why I'm not like sculling a Coke at 9:30 in the morning.
That makes total sense.
Sad days for me. Just pity me. Honestly, when she's done, we're getting all sorts of fucked up.
Yes.
All sorts.
That's
Hold
awesome.
me to that.
I will. Don't you worry about it. But I have to drink copious amounts of water to keep up on this show with PJ and stay alive. So, just the 6'7" versus 5'11" nature of our statures and drinking, it's just the reality of things. I don't know what I'm saying. It's fine. PJ, what are you following yours up with? We didn't talk. Are you having a back half?
Back half beer is Sticky Puddles, which is a strawberry, banana, blueberry, vanilla, marshmallow imperial sour.
What the fuck?
That sounds amazing. That sounds like a bath bomb.
It does sound more like a bath bomb than a beer.
It's by Lupulin Brewing Company. So I'm excited to try it. They usually do some good stuff.
Cool.
We're getting drunk tonight, I think.
Apparently.
I wish I was where you guys were.
Yeah, fair point. We got drunk last night. Very drunk. And so I'm like staring at this, not wanting to drink all of it right now.
Well, the only option is to shot it then. That's the only option. It's just to just get it done.
Maybe I'll do that. You're bad influence, but I'm loving it. it. Yeah,
absolutely.
No, it's good. I'm drinking in the vein of the necromancer. I am drinking a Corpse Reviver, of which I thought was only appropriate. Gin, 1 ounce gin, 1 ounce lemon juice, 1 ounce Lillet Blanc, 1 ounce dry curacao or whatever, orange liqueur, little tiny bit of absinthe, half teaspoon, orange garnish, solid. Following up that. I've got a super lemon haze, which I had on the show last week. Another one of those. Just sticking with the lemon, you know?
Fancy.
You were giving me shit for having a lot of booze in my cocktail. At least mine's like backed up with juice and sugar. Yours is
this is just pretty much straight booze, right?
I'm feeling
this is pretty
like
much just a shot.
I should definitely have just like pumped and dumped and just like got on the mead. Good Lord. Good Lord.
It'll be a fun time. We're so excited. With that, let's talk about this book. I think we should start with overall thoughts. And I want to kick it to PJ just to vent his thoughts first. And then we'll go to you, Piéra, and talk. Talk there.
Breezy.
Mm-hmm. So overall, this book was entirely different than anything I've actually read before. And because of that, and also because I strictly listened to the audiobook, it took me a little bit to get into it because it was very confusing with all of the names. That said, I had a ton of fun with the story to the point where I actually listened to it again. I listened to it front to back today before the show.
Jeez, on what speed?
Double.
Just
double.
Yeah,
Amazing.
You and your 3x craziness.
Okay. No, it's not. No, I'm just saying, like, what sane person can finish an entire book in one day?
Yeah, so it's like 8 hours and 20 minutes at double speed.
Oh, okay, well, it's not bad. For some reason, I was thinking one of those, like, 12 hours, 18 hours. I was like, what's your day?
No.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I had a blast. Especially the second time listening to it, I'm like, okay, I understand what's happening. Now I can actually like absorb what went on in the first half of the book. So,
yeah, those first two acts are great, but it isn't immediately clear why or what's important because like Gideon doesn't think it's important. So like you don't ever see anything because she's like, this doesn't fucking matter. I don't give a shit.
List of things Gideon thinks is important. Tits. So pissing off Harrow. Absolutely.
Can you blame her?
No, God, I'm right there with her. Why do you think she's one of my favorites? Top two things in common. Big fan.
Awesome. Piéra, overall thoughts. Obviously, you love this book. That's why you're here.
I do. But same as PJ, like the first time I read it, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I think Tamsin Muir is so clever in the way that she's written. Like half the words, I'm like, I don't know what this means, whether she's made it up or it's a real word. Couldn't tell you. And I like to think I'm a pretty literate person. But yeah, I really struggled the first time with it. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, I thought I hated it the whole time I was reading it, but I just wanted to finish it. And then by the time I'd finished it, I was like, holy shit. I sat with it for 2 days and I was like, it's my favorite book of the year. Don't know how it happened, but I was like, I'm obsessed. And so same thing, I read it again straight away, which is what cemented it as one of my favorite books. And then I think I only picked up the audiobook when Harrow came out because when Harrow came out, I just had laser eye surgery, and so I couldn't read. I was blind for like a week straight, so I had to listen to the audiobook there. And I was like, I'll do the Gideon audiobook first, lead into it, blah, blah, blah. And those audiobooks are incredible. Like, I'm not a huge audiobook person myself, but I think, both of the series that I've come on to talk to you guys about with like Red Rising and this one, two of my absolute favorite audiobooks. So yeah, big fan. Gideon is right up there with my favorites.
Yeah, and there's obviously that overlap too, where Moira Quick who did Gideon, does Lyria's voice in Dark Age as well. And so she also does Victra in Dark Age. Like, she is predominantly Victra's voice.
That was so familiar.
Yeah.
I don't look into it because I'm just dumb and I just don't care. But knowing that, I'm like, fuck, well, I've got to type. So, although I can guarantee there's like one other audiobook that I absolutely love. And now that I think about it, I wonder if she voices that too. I'm going to have to do some Googling.
Yeah. It would definitely check out. No, I totally agree with both of your opinions. I was shocked at first. Obviously, we had agreed because you had been like, let's fucking do. Well, we had talked previously at the end of the last time we were talking.
I wasn't,
and
just
I was
like,
we should probably read Gideon. And you were like, yes, absolutely do it. Have me back. And I was like, that sounds great. I'm going to bookmark that idea. And I got into the first act, and I was like, okay. I love the language. I really loved all of the bone language and the use of all of the different bodily functions and cavities and just like really utilizing all of that sort of verbose nature of the story. And then, but it took me a while to get through that first act. And then the initiation of the second act and like all of it just starts to explode. You get the deaths, and then it becomes this locked tomb murder mystery. And yeah. At the end, I like my brain blew apart in Act 4. Like, I lost it, and I was like, yes, okay, all right, yeah, man. And one of the most clever things, and I definitely want to talk about this, is that Tamsin Muir is clearly so literally grounded. Like, she is so well read, and literature profuses this whole thing in addition to all of the different like small references. But like, one of the things I keyed on immediately when we get into characters is like Dulcinea, Don Quixote. I was like, oh, so there's something wrong with her. I have to figure out what's wrong with her. Yeah. Oh God. Anyway,
so you did a smart boy read. I did like I said, I think through Red Rising as well. Like, I'm not like not into like the classics and like all of that. I said I'm literate, but I don't think I'm like, literate-y, fancy, all that sort of shit, which you clearly are. So to me, I'm going in blind. This is a great idea. And then obviously, because I'm so deep in the Locked Tomb fandom, it's probably that and the Red Rising fandoms are probably the only two that I'm like in the discords for, following all the hashtags and like some of those fucking theories. Mind blowing. Like, if you guys aren't already, like, I'm not sure if that's like a thing, but it's a really interesting, fun place to be with, especially theories. So
I like to be caught up before I jump into theories, just because I don't want something to like taint the second book experience. So I've been very careful about that for this, but I, not having a physical copy, I also only listened to it. I didn't realize that there's also, I think, an explainer in the back of the book, I was told, for some of the names, or the little like where the names came from.
Yeah, a dramatis personae or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But even then, like, there are spoilers in that. And I guess more so for book 2. And like, that's the thing. Like, you think you've got book 1 where you understand book 1, and then she goes and gives you book 2, which is nothing like book 1. And I cannot wait to talk to about book 2 to you guys, because you're just going to be like, what the fuck was that? And then in theory, book 3 and 4 will also be the same, us getting something completely different. So
yeah,
very much.
It's nice to be able to play in that sandbox of just utter experimentation, which this is, it is a like locked house murder mystery, space opera, necromantic lesbian book. And I love it. I loved kind of the whole, it's like, fuck genre. This is just what it is. I loved that embodiment here.
Absolutely. I'm glad you guys liked it.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that you either absolutely love it, or you're kind of like, I have no idea what's going on, and therefore I couldn't enjoy it.
Yeah. So, okay, here's where we'll jump into this. We obviously announced this ahead of time to a lot of people in our community, our kind of Discord and Patreon and people like that. And it has had wildly mixed reactions among our listeners, which is interesting. More often than not, when everyone's gotten to Act 4 and like the last couple of chapters of Act 4, everyone's opinion has changed. But up until that point, people are like, oh God, I don't know. I don't know if I can trust your guys' recommendations. And man,
I feel like that's pretty widespread, like from what my experience as well.
I think that makes sense. One of the critiques that stands for a lot of these folks, and I think it's an interesting thing to talk about, is like the dialogue and the choice of using kind of modern references in addition to all of this very, deep romantic.
See, I don't know if it's because a lot of because obviously Tamsin is New Zealand, like, a New Zealander born and based and lives in the UK or whatever. So I found a lot of like the humor and a lot of the dialogue, and whether it's like tonality or pacing or whatever, so good, because it is so similar to ours as Australian, which, sometimes I don't know if it's, I've only really noticed it in a few books. Like, I know, like with Nevernight, obviously Australian writer, that humor, the cadence, the tone is all very Australian. And so it just read a lot easier. But then I know I'll read, a US writer's book or a UK writer's book, and it just isn't as, I don't like, natural is probably not the right word for me, but like if you were to say it out loud, and I don't know if it's just, I've got some weird back alley sort of slang or whatever, but that's one thing that I really appreciated about Gideon is pretty much anything Gideon would say, I can 100% have said, like, would come out of my mouth. And I don't like, that's what made her one of my favorite characters. I was like, yo, that's just me. That like in my brain, I am a Gideon Nav in a Harrow body. Like, that's all it will ever be. And so I love it. I don't know, like, I'll let you finish your sentence for one, but
oh no, you're good.
It's the ADD, but yeah, I appreciated the dialogue.
Yeah. PJ, how'd you feel about the?
I didn't have any problem with the dialogue itself. I felt like it was a little bit jarring the way like Gideon spoke versus everybody else. I think my best way to liken it is like an electric guitar with a symphony orchestra. Like, it's just so starkly different, but it can mesh pretty well.
I love that.
Like, I don't know. I kind of likened it to the fact that she's kind of out of the loop. She's not actually a cavalier.
She has no fucking clue what's going on half the time, which makes her an unreliable narrator, which makes it fucking even better.
It felt like...
Sorry.
No, Exactly. It felt like early Darrow when thinking about like speaking like a gold, but not leaning into it at all and just ignoring the fact that she speaks differently than everybody else. You know, it's just two very different types of people that are interacting.
You know, and one of the reasons that I liked the dialogue personally, it's some of the references I still enjoyed inside of it. It's like, but why would it be happening in this like space operatic universe that's clearly Earth in the future or what have you? And I don't need an explanation because all of the rest of it works out so well that it's just like, you know, whatever. Like even the Mean Girls reference of like, you know, you don't ask someone why they want to be a lictor, Arrow. You don't just ask someone. I think that's the line. But for me, I guess it's that cavalier nature. She's the only one who hasn't been nurtured to actually be in that position, right? Versus everyone else. But then on top of that, she's basically been raised indirectly. Like her and Harrow are both on completely different life trajectories than anyone else and have been, you know, and like the puppeting of parents and the sort of idea that like they're both kind of parentless children for most of their lives. It just it further exemplifies that and makes me more okay with it because the background really feeds into it, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, like again, like I just love, and I don't know if I didn't notice it until I read like not a theory, but just like someone's takeaway on it. Like with Gideon being the narrator, especially, is like when you think about all the stuff that was probably going on in the background being very fucking obvious to anyone who knew what to look for. And then Gideon's just like, I saw these two characters over there having a chat. I don't give a fuck. And like continuing on when it's probably like Dulcinea and like, you know, someone like plotting the death or whatever. Like all the things that you would have seen if you saw it on TV or something. But because Gideon's so just like in her little bubble world of what she knows, I just found that really interesting. And that I guess kind of translated through the rest of the series for me of just when you like, if you were to see that whole series, like that whole book from Harrow's perspective or, you know, Calamity's perspective or Camilla's perspective or something like that, it would have been so different. And which is why I appreciated the Gideon perspective is because like obviously, you know, audience tie-in, whatever, into this like new world. But yeah, and then when you get them in contrast with all of the other houses when they finally get there, like, you know, you've got like Sextus and his whole, like that whole house is just completely different. And obviously how like the other houses have all obviously communicated with each other. Like you've got like the Tridentari obviously having more stuff to do with like Judith and all that sort of stuff. And so whereas like Ninth House is just like, you know, this like Pluto essentially doesn't count as a planet anymore.
Right. So, yeah, not even a real thing. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't supposed to be. That feels like that's kind of the other bit about the mystery is that the intent was for the house to die out and like to roll. And I think that also plays into, there's so much to talk about inside of this and my brain is just exploding with things. And obviously not having read the second book and like holding out hope that I'm probably just going to burn through it tomorrow at this point.
Amazing.
But I am floored by a lot of the different imagery that's inside of this, right? And especially the combination of like, clearly there's a lot of Catholic and Christian undertones that are just tied into this whole thing and sort of tearing down or talking about it in various ways. And in particular, the Ninth House's different religion from the other 8 houses is fascinating because they're the only ones, they say a different prayer. They're asked to say a different prayer. And it's almost like a joke when they're asked to like when Harrow's asked to say because clearly they were never meant to live beyond like their original duty of rolling the stone in front of the tomb and calling it a day because no one's supposed to survive on Pluto. Pluto fucking sucks. Yeah. I don't know. It's very Ozymandias too, in the way where it's like, we built this thing to contain this thing and everyone is going to die with me in kind of the Watchmen sense of it. I don't know. Fuck. So good.
I'm just excited for you to read book 2. That's all. God, I've got nothing to say on that.
You can't just leave me like that. Sorry. No, that's totally appropriate. More to come. What about the character? We were talking about characters first and foremost, some favorite characters. PJ, did you have thoughts? Unfold whichever direction. I'm just chaotic energy exuding right now.
So that boost, baby.
This book. Well, you know, generally we hold it together and keep to some kind of an outline, but right now we're all over the place.
I think you lost it before we started, which is fine.
That's true. We did talk about the sneezing tequila story. Yeah. So it's gone. All right.
Jesus. Okay. All right. I'm leading this now. Crossland's gone. So regarding the planets and the houses the houses clearly correlate with the planets, but do we know if they're strictly like 1-to-1 in order of the solar system, like distance from the sun, 1st through 9th, or is it just kind of?
I'm
sure
think
it's
so.
probably explained. Potentially it is explained in book 2, but like I can't even, like I said, book 2 is such a different beast of a thing. Like you probably will lap it up because you have the brain for it. I don't have the brain capacity for it. And so I'm just like hanging on to like the little character bits of like the stuff that I do understand. But like the grand scheme of it, I think they do probably in my brain, like, yeah, I just go A, B, C, D, E sort of thing.
My thought, just kind of following that thought process, my thought is that Earth might be the first house.
I think it is.
Because it's house Canaan, which has like very, very strong historical and biblical like connections.
Massive significance.
I don't know what those connections are. I recognize the term or the name, but that's my only working theory, that they're not like 1-to-1, 2-to-2, 3-to-3, is that House Canaan is probably Earth, and it's the first house. But
yeah, and Cytherea is Judas, and like, where do we want to go with this? Because we could go like full. We've got the 12 apostles.
Grinning like a madman back here.
No.
I'm expecting like updates as you read. I hope you both know this.
Sure. Yeah,
I want like holy shit brain spasms.
I'm sure they'll happen. I'm already at that point where I am so sucked into this that, yeah, I didn't get a full listen in. I just like went back and like treated certain acts, and I was like, okay, something happened in that chapter. Let's go like revisit these couple of chunks. And then I kind of like hopped around in a second listen today. But yeah, my heart.
We're all just like, yep, good, yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
I've got a new audiobook credit. I think I'll probably get Piéra the Ninth like right after we're done recording.
Absolutely.
God, yeah.
You were saying characters.
Yes.
I want to get to the characters. I want to know what you guys think of the whole cast. Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite? Who are you? Where you at?
Oh, man. Okay, so I have a strange appreciation for Ianthe, for sure. Well, like, great, incredible.
No, like that. Oh.
But like the whole relationship between like Coronabeth, like the third house in general, I think is fascinating. And I think that on top of that, obviously the seventh house isn't that interesting, but at the same time, we don't actually know the seventh house itself, but the characters that came from the seventh house, fascinating. And like the power of lictors, and then obviously the power of Cytherea and Dulcinea, you know, like the whole adoption. We really don't know the seventh house right now as it stands, it feels. Truly. The eighth house sucks, except for, well, Silas sucks, I should say. Column was good.
The real MVP.
Daddy Magnus was pretty neat until he died.
I think Magnus was my favorite.
I love. They're like, this is going to be great. We're gonna solve the problem. We're gonna do this together, guys.
And he's like a great cook.
Immediately murdered. Yeah.
I don't know. I really appreciated Magnus.
Yeah. Especially in a re-listen. Fuck. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously Harrow and Gideon are incredible. Second house, you know, like the cohort, like it gives you a little bit of a lens into sort of their like militaristic, but like nothing super interesting. But Palamedes was my favorite of the.
Oh, Sex Pal, my favorite.
Yeah.
I love
Sex Pal.
I love.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too. And I was like,
I think those two are probably my favorite. Like Camilla, the second Camilla walked on the screen, on the page, I was like, yes. And then like Go Loud Camp, I was like, that's my girl. That's all I need. Big fan. And I don't know if you guys are aware, there are 2 short stories floating around, both free online. I think one's on the Tor website, which is The Mysterious Study of Dr. Sex, which is about the sixth house. And it's a bit of a prequel. And then there's a bridging between what's going on in book 2. So I'd read book 2 first and then read book 2 first and then read the short stories, because they also cover what happens after book 1 between some of the characters. I'm trying not to like spoil anything for you.
Sure.
But go book 1, book 2, then short stories, just for
got it
full. But that's kind of what bolstered my appreciation of Camilla and Palamedes especially. Big fan. Like Gideon will always be my number 1. Harrow has this like weird little creepy hold on my heart after book 2. Anthe, again, like 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just trying to, because I read them like consecutively, I'm trying to like separate them. So I'm not like, oh, this character's my favorite and it's from book 2. But yeah. Yeah, I think Gideon, obviously, because like she's just not like a character that I've kind of read before. Like I've read similar characters, but not one that I was just kind of like, oh, absolutely my kind of humor, which you don't often see in fantasy books, let alone from women. So
very true, very true. I was going to say she fits in perfectly in an Abercrombie book, of which I've recommended. Go read Blade itself. You'll fucking like it just does it. It does it right. If anything, again, the recommendation that I have is if like you can't get into the first book, go read the fourth because it's the best book out of the first 6 that I've read. So, and you don't need the context. So anyway, and Monza is Gideon. Gideon is Monza. It's incredible. Yeah. Fuck. So, okay.
I feel like I really want to love Teacher, but Teacher felt a little bit half-baked.
Yeah. I personally got like nothing apart from like, and your guide to the house, and I'm not going to give you anything or tell you anything. Yeah, and then I'm going to, be important at one point, and then, I get that. I got that.
There's a lot of enthusiasm there. It's a very enthusiastic character, but it felt like the least fleshed out of any character that we met. So.
What were your favorites, PJ? I listed off the whole cast, which is unfortunate. So, yeah,
Magnus, absolutely. I mean,
Magnus,
barring the Ninth House as an answer.
Yeah,
Magnus. I think I don't know why. I liked the sort of surprise, I guess, and it felt uncharacteristic, but not that uncharacteristic when it's revealed that he's a really good cook. And like it was just a little bit of levity in this pretty heavy like book up to that point, and it's just like, yeah, man, like dinner party, let's go. Even the addendum
let's go.
At the end of the invitation where he's like, that's a stupid fucking formal like invitation. Just come. It's going to be fun. Like, we'll have a good time.
Oh, I did love them. I remember reading their like death and being like, it was one of those deaths that I like had to read like twice because I was like, how did they? And then, because I think it surprised me again, like going into it the first time, not really knowing what to expect. And then for it to kind of flip on its head and become like this like murder mystery Cluedo situation. I was like, all right, here we go. Full steam ahead, which, it was.
Something along the lines, there's so many brilliantly written lines, but I think that one was like entangled, like wet dish rags or something like that, or like wet laundry. Wet laundry, I think is what it was. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. Yeah.
And you never want your favorites to die like gruesomely. Like you want them to die like with like a nice slit throat or like a stab to the heart or something like where they're not like totally mangled and, beheaded and sewed back on to a wolf's body or something ridiculous like that. So maybe
that does sound pretty awful. Yeah.
Maybe it's me.
Are you like putting thoughts out for what's going to happen in the 6th book of Red Rising? Because that sounds like,
oh no, don't. If that happened, I would throw a book. Like, you think Morningstar was bad with like the thing that we almost thought happened? You would never see me again. You would see me setting fire to the book and doxing Pierce Brown. Won't have it. Absolutely won't have it.
Oh man, yes.
God, you could see him doing that though.
Oh, absolutely. Now that I've said it, I'm scared for me.
You literally said it out loud. Yeah, you put that evil.
He doesn't listen to
world.
this, right? Tell me he doesn't listen to this.
I can't. I will make no claims one way or the other.
Oh Lord. Can I trademark an idea? I don't know.
Royalties.
Absolutely. You deserve them. And, like you're saying, the sort of like grim death and execution, it plays into like the entirety of this story, right? The magic of the whole thing is death magic. And there's no like counterpoint of like rainbow and butterfly. There's like nothing that's going to be like positive. It's just like, this is what you get. And it's this dark world. And, you don't want these gruesome things to happen to these characters. But the world is also set up where there's not going to be a better way to go out for anyone, it seems. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much just grim. And as far as I could piece it out right now, it feels like we kind of have 3 examples, which is like bone magic, which is like the splinters into skeletons, flesh, which is that flesh bubble that like popped up in near the end of the book, and then spirit, which is like the like channeling channeling move. That feels like those are the 3 forms. Yeah
Yeah. Yep. I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, you're the one who has to play cautious this time, which is
Just
completely
fact-checking. Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool.
Yep. Oh, they don't know that. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Pretty
Just
much.
Careful. Yeah.
I'm that guy who's like, you should read book 2 and then get back to me. I just forgot how, like, you know, when you read like a series, like all in like one day and you're just like, I don't know where book 1 ended and book 2 started. So,
oh yeah,
it's just one of them. It's just one of them. Although on what you were saying with the magic, like the thing that threw me that I don't know if it ever got explained. And if it did, I must have missed it because I don't think it was in book 2 either, or at least just in the concept of book 1 is like, the eating Nefarious, like just taking chunks out of him. Like I get it, but I don't get, like, remember when she just like ate a chunk of his hair and was just like gnawing on a finger or like stuff like that. Did you catch that? Did I make that up? No, it's in the book. Fuck off. It's in the book. I know it's in the book.
They talk
Definitely
about how,
like, I know what it has to do in terms of like the grand scheme, Lichterhood, yada, yada, yada.
yeah,
But
like it requires,
when you
it
think about
felt
what happened in
more
the
just
end. Yeah.
sadism than anything. Like it's not necessary to be that gruesome about it, but why not?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the general sentence or the vibe of it was that she like replenished her strength by chewing on his hair, which is like, I'm pretty sure that's not exactly what the context is in the situation. But like, I just make, like, you know, obviously Silas like siphons off a column and all of the links between Cavalier and Necromancer and whatever. I just thought that was a really bizarre way of doing it. And I wanted to like look more into like the Third House, I guess, in that regard. Like you don't see Magnus and Abigail like chewing on chunks of each other just to strengthen her powers or whatever. No, anyway, but you know, you know what I mean?
Whoa. Yeah, no. Right.
They're married. Who knows? Yeah.
True.
Anyway, that was just an errant thought that I've always had every time I think about the series. It's like, what was that? Like that sentence, that fever dream of a sentence.
Yeah.
Part of me, PJ, did you have a thought there?
I didn't have an additional thought. It felt
Okay.
like
Not a single
it wasn't necessary to be that gruesome about it, but
yeah.
like
Maybe it was just a thing that stood out to me and I was like, gross.
Yeah.
Awful. Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah, I was also a big fan. I think that if I'm trying to figure out what exactly that was, I think it was later used and is replenishing her power and whatnot. And I think you could probably do it with anyone's flesh. I don't think it's directly the Cav Necro relationship. I think it's more the general Thanergy consumption, because then she does all those flesh things after she eats. So she does the giant flesh bubble, of which I'm imagining she like spits out maybe the chunk or something like that, and then uses that to make the bubble. Yeah, it's got to be repulsive, you know.
Again, my little tiny pea brain didn't connect the dots with a lot of like big fancy. And I think I mentioned this to you guys when we were talking about Red Rising. Is there are some things that I really struggle with visually. Like if I can, because a lot when I read, I like, you know, it's like a movie to me, blah blah blah. But there are some things that I'm like, I can't fathom what that would look like. And especially when she's using words like Thanergy and Thalogy and, you know, her especially describing her magic system and when she's using all the big fancy words for like shin bone or like knuckle. Yeah. She's like, you know, the humerus femoris or whatever the fuck it's called. I struggle with that. And I think maybe I probably just lost it. I think I lost quite a bit in just not being smart enough for it, which is why every time I reread it, I'm like, yes. Quick Google, like, what is the fancy name for elbow?
Yeah. So, right.
I don't know.
I just had this crazy, you said elbow, and I had this crazy mental picture of like, we'll call it fan, whatever the hell, fan imagination of like Gideon licking Harrow's elbow and like being like, you can't feel it. I don't know why that came up. It just did. It immediately entered.
But like, is that not something to shoot? Absolutely do.
And Harrow would be like, what the hell are you doing? And Gideon's like, testing something. I don't know.
Just nothing.
Just go with it.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah, right.
Exactly. Fuck, I love Gideon so much. I'm gonna reread it. You've done me. You've got me.
Yes.
God damn it.
Crossland, you mentioned the sort of different forms of magic that are,
I don't know. Again.
I got the sort of impression that there's a lot in this world and in these houses specifically that are lost to time and still exist. Like we get the rifle, like this ancient rifle that like exists in history books, but like she's never seen one before. Like there's clearly a lot out there that they're not necessarily understanding of. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's several forms of magic beyond necromancy that has either accidentally or intentionally been lost to time.
I want to get into crazy, stupid theories because we haven't read the second book and Piéra can laugh at us.
Would love to hear them.
But one of my crazy, stupid theories is that the Emperor committed mass genocide on the solar system in order to achieve immortality and then was able to bring people back with that amount of energy over time. Maybe.
This is my best poker face. This is my I'm giving nothing away. I know exactly how I want to answer that, and you will get nothing from me. Absolutely nothing.
But maybe not. That just feels like it's one of those things where it feels like the answer to a thing like so if we take the Christian theme and we like spin it on its head, it's sort of like the antithesis in its own way, right? And so as opposed to saving everyone through unity in Christ or what have you, the Christian ideology, this is instead spinning it the opposite way and everyone's saved through death. And then being able to bring life back in a restrained fashion. I don't know. I just see that, but
interesting.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Interesting. The poker face.
Yes.
No comment,
yes.
as they say.
Yeah. That's what I do to PJ all the time whenever he asks me questions in the regular show, like reading Mistborn. And it's always interesting to the point of where we're making a t-shirt that says interesting on it, because that's all I fucking respond with in those moments. So thanks for that. Yeah. Taste of my own medicine.
Maybe not. Who knows? Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, yeah. I mean, obviously, like you get a lot of answers in book 2, but then you also get to upload more questions. And so it's just kind of like, cool. Like it's one thing that I've appreciated about the book is it's not here's book 1 and the questions in book 1 are answered in book 2 and book 2's questions are in book 3. And especially like, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with, I guess it was originally supposed to be a trilogy. So Gideon, however, Electo. And then Electo was supposed to come out this year and she's decided to do a 3rd book instead, which is Electo, the 4th book. This is Gideon the Ninth, which is, if you've read the blurb and seen even the cover, feels very, very different to book 1 and especially book 2. And so it's so interesting. You don't know. Like, we've been given the cover, we've got the blurb, we've got excerpts from the book, and we're all just kind of like, I still have no fucking clue what's going on. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what's going on. And so that's what originally threw me when I read book 2, because I was like, I just got my head around Gideon. Like, I just figured out what's going on. And you've just essentially gone and, fucked that completely off and gone, hey, here's something new. And if she wasn't so clever about it and it wasn't done so well, it could easily lose you. There's a lot of people who are like, I love book 1, but book 2 just it was too much for me. It completely threw me. I had no idea what was going on. Yeah, and it makes me feel like an idiot every now and again. I'll listen to it and be like, I don't know what that means, but I like it. So
that'll pay off eventually. Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. And even if it doesn't, it was fun. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
PJ, wild theories while we're here.
Wild theory opposing yours. No mass genocide.
Oh.
There's just other communities of other types of magic people on the same planets that don't interact with the necromancers.
They're just like, fuck those necromancers.
There's just a city of mages on the other side of the planet. For
some fucking
one.
wizards down the back.
What do you call the planet's houses?
Bro, this is Mars. It's like fucking Darrow on the other side of the gold. What is that?
Yes, it's within the Red Rising universe.
Exactly. No, that's so
I liked it better when you said Wedwising.
Wedwising.
I'm a fan of that too.
Yeah.
Next week on Wedwising. Sorry.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nod. Yes. Smile and wave.
You didn't like.
Ooh.
Whether it just rubbed you the wrong way or you didn't understand it. Your tiny little pea brain couldn't compute like mine.
I felt incredibly confused through a lot of it. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that I strictly read the audiobook, or I strictly consumed the audiobook.
Yeah.
In that there's not a whole lot of different voices for the different characters. And all of the characters' names are very complicated. And there are multiple names for a lot of the characters. So I was lost through a lot of it, especially the first time through. But even the second time through, I'm like, I get the gist, but I still don't exactly know who did what. So
yep, interesting.
Yeah.
The one thing that's slightly bother in the smallest bother is I kind of wanted the dirty magazines to pay off in some way.
That too.
I just wanted they were there. It's character driving. It's a very character moment, but I just wanted maybe a moment of like discovery from a different character being like, these are yours, and have that be like a broke, because like Gideon's kept as this like silent cav for a lot of this, and this is just like the Nine House thing, and then they find like the dirty magazines, and I think that would have been the great way to break it. You know what I mean? Like to have the dirty mags be the thing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just it's a minor thing. Other than that, I think it was just that it took a while for me to get into in general. But then once it did, it was like, oh, I can't stop. Like this is a compulsion now. Like I have to keep going.
I wish that there was a little bit more tension in the beginning. Not the beginning of the book, but the beginning when they're on at the first house between Gideon and Harrow. Because she's there compulsively. Like I wish there was. They get very, very friendly very quickly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel earned.
Yeah, no, I completely agree when you mentioned it. Yeah, especially because, considering the history is, they've tried to kill each other a million times, and how deranged is Harrow, knowing that Gideon's trying to escape, gets up at the fucking ass crack of dawn to bury bones into a place that she's like, how constructed that plan was magic to my queer ears. But I agree completely. Like it's the marriage of convenience trope, etc. But it did feel very like, oh, we're in this together at the end of the day, and like. I agree, especially with Harrow, like, running off by herself for like the first like 2 weeks or whatever, and Gideon's just like, cool, well, fuck me, right?
And after Gideon's like escape plan fails again, Harrow explicitly like straight up says, "Because I fucking hate you."
Yeah,
and that tension never resolves.
Especially when you think about how it ends.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, any kind of queer media, I'm like, done, I'll take it. Whatever you give me breadcrumbs, I'll take it. And so I guess maybe it would have been different. I don't know if it was like a male-female sort of pairing or something like that. I wonder, like, for me personally, just in that sort of, looking for the romance in it all, that sort of earned loyalty as opposed to, Sorry, I'm just going through it in my head now. Like, holy shit, you've unlocked something. Yeah, no, I am in agreement.
This makes me go back to the thing. Like Gideon Nav shows up on the planet, this baby that's basically like Amazon drop droned onto this planet, but it feels like she's got to be God's kid, right? Like she's got to be the emperor or the son or something's child, because she's protected. She survives all of these things. There's something wrong with her. I mean, not like wrong in the like there's something off. You know what I mean?
Something wrong.
I mean, there's many things
real.
wrong with her. That's a little different, but not the context that I meant. Yeah.
Interesting, as they say.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Cool. Yeah. She's got it. Fuck. Now I'm thinking, and I'm not.
I know you two are about
having
to,
a conversation.
Smash through book 2.
It's likely to happen immediately after we're done here.
I'm here for it. Like I said, it's early in my morning, so I'm expecting you guys up until like 3 a.m. being like, "Holy, yo, did you know this happened? Holy shit, the answers for this."
Anyway,
I feel like
up my brain
at the adult table.
You've read more than I
or something.
It's. Getting back to the Gideon thing, my brain is still focused on this. So there's something tragic. There's so much that's tragic about this character and sort of the romance of it all. I love how, again, the love is kind of, it's a little bit understated, I would say, but it's just there. It exists. It's not brought into question. It's not made a big deal. That's a shitty term to put on that, but you know what I mean? Like it's there, and I don't want to say inconsequential, but it's not
different.
There's no prejudgments on it. There's no like, this is against society or norms or whatever. So it just feels very natural. And Gideon falls in love with everyone because she's damaged goods.
Anyone who shows you a tiny bit of interest, she's like, oh my God, Dulcinea looked at me once. Gah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Corona Beth, she absolutely immediately falls in love. She's like, gorgeous. Love her.
10 out of 10, a Wilfbone. Yeah. No, and then when you think about it realistically, Gideon's probably a virgin. And I find that really funny. Never been kissed, never, when you think like starved for, physical contact, if she's been kept in her like weird little cell the whole time and all of those sorts of, it's not like she's dating in the ninth house when her options are literally a skeleton or an archenemy.
Gideon is Jesus. That's all I'm getting here. And Harrow is Mary Magdalene, and we're merging these two, and we're making this like God. Yeah, it's a thing. I don't know. It's got to be. It's got to be a fucking thing. I don't know.
She talks about feeling.
Give me one of those shows.
Yeah. Sorry, Peach. As soon as I can mail to you.
The Ninth Cavalier, I can't remember the name that escaped on Gideon's shuttle.
Orchis Nygaard.
Okay. Was there a relationship between her and Gideon?
Right.
Him, I guess. I don't know.
No, because remember, he's like 32. Like, he's significantly older, and he only picked up the mantle because his dad died.
He mentions heartbreak at like somebody leaving. Or was it heartbreak that like the shuttle left?
I think it was that. I don't think the only people Gideon really had ties to, I say loosely, in that were her sword trainer, whose name Agamente, old lady, old.
Yeah.
One of those
that
names.
Sounds right. Yeah.
I can see it in my head. I just can't say it. And the guard guy who she hated.
Aglamine Crux. That's Crux.
Yeah, right? Those two. Yeah. So I think those are the, from what I'm thinking, they're the only two that she really had any kind of contact with.
Crux is another word for cross. I'm getting to this Jesus thing. I don't know.
Shit. Because like when you think about it, obviously the parents tried to kill Gideon. And, imagine you gas a bunch of kids. They're in there for like, 5 days. Or, not 5 days, but you're like, okay, great. Everyone's dead. You walk in and there's this tiny baby who's just survived.
It's a miracle.
Sort of stuff. Yeah, exactly. And so you're kind of like, well, shit, what do we do with it? Lock it away. Don't let anyone have any contact with it. And even, I can't fuck it. What's the name? Aglamene?
It's Aglamene, yeah.
Is it? Yeah. I'm trying to remember. And, like even her training Gideon with the sword in general was not a point of contention, but just kind of like, well, what the fuck do I do with it? Like, what do I do with this child? All I know is the sword man, so I'll just fucking let her have the sword. And so, like, I think it was very much we don't know what to do with this child now, as opposed to, like, in some, I don't know, some houses, some worlds, this baby comes down from space, survives mass murder. You'd be like, maybe important. We should use this for a soldier. Maybe this should be
perhaps angelic.
Exactly. Who knows? But instead, we're going to shove it in a box and pretend it doesn't exist because it threatens what we know. Society. Yeah, so I don't think she would have, like, I'm sure she would have known orders because obviously it says she goes to like the fucking prayer mass shit they have every now and again. So like you would have known who it is, but I don't think there was any sort of relationship with anyone was the long-winded answer that I was getting to.
Yeah. I'm curious by the term heartbreak in that scene. So I don't know. I didn't know how to take it, and it was hard to like go back and like read the context of it again because it's strictly audiobook. Like this,
yeah.
I wish I had a hard copy of this,
which is definitely something that I'm going to be picking up specifically for context before we talk about this next time, as well as for Harrow. Just even to review, they're just moments. That's what's so difficult about doing audio only, of which we don't usually do. It's just it worked out that way this time because we both decided to read it this week and didn't go get it. Yeah. So and it was great. Yeah, I think that the reason that heartbreak is cited there is specific to her sword teacher because it's the last time that she's going to see her, and that's like the only person that she has a relationship with.
Are you talking about when Gideon leaves? Not when orders in his.
Peach? I'm talking when she gets caught, when she was about to get on the shuttle.
Yeah,
and then it's mentioned that the Cavalier got on the shuttle instead and took the shuttle away. It's mentioned. Yeah. It's mentioned that heavy heartbreak that Gideon feels.
I think that. I would have read that as that was like her last opportunity to escape, and because now they'll be monitoring the shuttles.
She already knew that she had missed that window. It's that somebody else left on the shuttle.
Now I'm curious because I did catch it. I haven't caught that at all. So this is the first time I'm kind of thinking about it.
She was already captive. So it wasn't like she could get on the shuttle. The shuttle was hours gone at that point, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but don't you pine after what could have been, like the freedom that you could have had? You know?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's what my automatic thought would have been like that was supposed to be me, and it's not. And then, they go and blow up anyway, so kind of glad it wasn't.
True.
Interesting. Interesting.
I have to like nerd explode for a brief moment, but like the naming conventions of these characters is genius.
Which one did you pick up?
So Priam Hark being the King of Troy, obviously, and sort of this like bastion, this walled city that's holding in this holding back a prize of sorts. Protolaus, the first soldier who dies in the Trojan War,
that was my
skeleton cav. That one's insane.
That was my favorite one.
I think and Cronobeth is a really interesting one, which is, for me, this was a deep literary thing that I'd been reading recently, but I've been going through like old poetry. And so reading Lord Byron's Childe Harold's Pilgrimage is a book that is dedicated to Ianthe and is about like disenfranchised youth asking and like seeking knighthood and sort of that thing. And so it's interesting because it seems to combine those elements and like show the two sides of this sort of disenfranchised character that is Lord Byron in that moment. So good. God, there are so many direct like biblical references, like Isaac, obviously, among many of the other ones. And we mentioned Dulcinea earlier in Cervantes as Don Quixote, which is huge, her being this imaginary woman. And so I immediately keyed into that and was like, yes, okay, so there's a problem with
suspicious.
you. Yeah, suspicious. Genius. A lot of this is just so well constructed that way, floats everything else. It luxuriates in reread.
I wish I was well read enough to like pick up
I was
on
just
stuff
thinking,
like that.
I was like, what a big brain you have.
with crappy, useless information for the most part, except for in these conversations.
I mean, this is the same shit that I didn't pick up on, but really appreciated when you brought them up in our coverage of Red Rising. Like all of these like literary connections and understanding the depth of which these characters and situations are, like where they're born from and where they're weaved from. Understanding that like this is an act of like very, very intentional like love of different literary components. It makes
me appreciate authors.
Exactly.
Yeah,
even though
right.
I don't understand, like I don't know where it's coming from. I didn't catch it, but understanding that it was intentional, and like directed, feels super cool.
I read the smallest bit of background too. That I think it was the 8th house characters were supposed to be Cain and Abel, but they cut that, or maybe it was. No,
I think it was the twins and Cronobeth, wasn't it?
Yes, you're right. Originally. And then that was rewritten. So
yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said, I don't have the brain. It makes me feel awful when I'm writing things because I'm like, I need a name for something. What if I just smash the keyboard and just see what comes up? And knowing full well that authors like go down this rabbit hole of like, let me use this name from the Trojan War, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I'm dumb. And so I hope that when, for authors, when they have people who catch it and who, appreciate it, acknowledge it, that they're like, cool, I'm not fucking nuts, which is what I'm sure I would be if somebody caught anything that I ever did, like on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I feel that as someone who writes as well, as it's like, is anyone ever going to get this? Like, I'm putting in this really interesting, weird niche reference that I love. Is anyone going to understand?
But isn't
that?
that what writing is? Isn't that what writing things in general is? Like, I want to see this. I'm going to write it.
It's fucking neat.
Cool.
Yeah. And obviously, like, this is an accessible story without knowing any of that. But you get like the extra little tidbits.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you kind of, you have it.
You almost get like you said, you get almost a not a spoiler, but a precursor sort of tingling of sensation, like a spidey sense of like something's going to happen with this character based on that name.
I am dumb, is what I'm realizing.
No, it's super.
I am
no one said that.
Girl.
You're claiming it yourself. No one believes that.
Dumb girl who reads dumb little fantasy books.
I'm in this boat
brain.
with you.
PJ didn't read before this, so I mean,
I'm very proud of you. This isn't an easy book to read. God almighty. Yeah, I think every person I've recommended, like my best friend especially, she's like, I tried to read it. I got through 3 pages and I was like, what the fuck? I put it down. I was like, no, babe, you gotta keep going. She read it once. She's like, I still have no fucking clue. I was like, okay, but read it again. And trying to convince someone to read a book a second time when they hated it the first time, I'm like, no, please, like, trust me. And what a trust exercise it was, because now she's obsessed. She's like, I need it in every version. I need every expensive copy. She sent me an eBay listing for like the ARCs and the fancy Illumicrate versions for like $1,500. And she's like, do I? I was like, no, of course not. What the fuck is wrong with you? Absolutely insane. But like, you know, when you bring someone down the rabbit hole with you and you're just kind of like, hey, come with me, you're like fucking gold. And they're like, out of my way. That's what I feel like sometimes. This is great. Yeah.
Love that. Any particularly favorite insults from this book? I mean, like there are so many that are incredible.
I mean, it's not so much an insult, but one of the lines from Gideon is like, and especially at the moment that it is at, is like, so you're telling me that you're in love with some chilly weirdo in a coffin. Like,
yeah, that's a good one.
Especially considering it's like one of them like super tense moments. You're like, holy shit, what could you possibly say here? So you're telling me you're in love. Yeah, no, that one. And pretty much anything that kind of, yeah. No, I just love, anything Gideon. Pretty much anything Gideon. But I feel like nothing stood out. Like I'm not sitting here thinking about like, you know, anything specific, but just I know that the vibe I got from Gideon. Although any of her kind of interactions with Nefarious are always fun to me. Mm-hmm. Like on her, like how she sees him. And like when you think about it, like without Gideon, he probably would have been like the best swordsman in the whole place. And she kind of, this like back alley nobody comes in and like shows him up. Mm-hmm. This like prince essentially.
Yeah, he's got that very princely kind of attitude, authority to him. I think she calls him the mayonnaise-faced baby. I think that's who she refers to. And that is my favorite insult I've ever heard. Like, period, bar none. I heard that and I rewound and I laughed out loud. And I had to like, I was at the time, I was sitting on the floor looking at my phone, reading something on Twitter and was listening. And it hit me and I was like, this is fucking hilarious. And I literally rolled on the floor. I was like dying. It was amazing.
Yeah. That one was good. And all of the like future references to mayo. Like, just
don't know what it is. Mayo. We've got it.
Yeah,
it's less of an insult, but the exchange where Gideon, before they leave the Ninth, she's basically saying the only thing I'll help you with is fucking killing yourself. To
jokes
Harrow.
On me.
So
yeah. No,
three or four different ways. I think it's three different ways. She says it. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but
no, I know what you mean. No, I love the Gideon Harrow like relationship, I guess, like dynamic, whatever you want to call it. Again, although now saying what you said earlier, PJ, is just that the payoff wasn't like, I imagine how much better the payoff could have been with some more tension at the beginning. But then I also appreciate Gideon as a person was just kind of like, this is the situation. I guess we're just going to fucking live with it. Whereas Harrow obviously kind of railed against it for so long. And when you if you get deep into it and you think about it, like Harrow is the one with more to lose than Gideon was. Like Gideon didn't know as much as Harrow. Like she didn't have these expectations to be this, like, you know, the fucking necromancer, pillar of the ninth house, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And so I guess like, you made my life shit, but like kind of as opposed to Harrow, who knows like the weight of what happened and how she became and all of those sorts of things. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's me romanticizing it.
I just getting back into it. I wish there was straight up hostility between the two of them, like behind closed doors, until she finds her all but dead body. Like, I feel like that could have been a really nice point of binding them together. And if she had to like do something to like make sure that she didn't die in that instance.
Yeah.
Like that could have been a really nice point to shift the dynamic between the two of them.
So did you kind of get that sort of payoff when you know how Harrow had to do the test of where she walked through the thing and she was siphoning off Gideon and like, you know, Gideon adopts Nair's arms, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Like
I loved that because that felt like a turning point for Harrow as well. Because, you know, first time he called me Gideon and then passes out.
That
would have kind of...
I didn't... That's what I was thinking about today. I was in the grocery store picking up, like I was going... shopping. I was in the grocery store book listening aisle during that scene.
You must look like a lunatic.
I was thinking like, why is Gideon so eager to like give herself up for this? Like she's leaning into the siphon at a certain point. And it still didn't feel earned.
Lesbians, baby. That's all I can say.
All right.
Gideon is a classic U-Haul lesbian. Absolutely.
U-Haul lesbian? Is that the term?
Have you not heard? Oh,
I've
my
never
God.
heard the term. No.
Bless you.
Share.
So the running, obviously I'm not a lesbian myself, but halfway there is very much, everyone kind of dates everyone's ex. Everyone knows everyone. So if you find someone, you pretty much move in on the second date. And so it's always like, had our first date, second date is me moving in. So there's more to it, but that's, my understanding of the U-Haul lesbian sort of thing. I find Gideon to be a U-Haul lesbian is very much I guess I kind of see that in the Dulcinea and then the Coronabeth thing as well, where she's like a little bit of attention, done, sold. I mean, I'm obsessed. And then, a little more attention for anyone else. Again, I don't know if my experience of reading it is different to obviously yours coming, being a queer person who likes queer media, having that sort of stuff makes a huge difference to me. And I guess probably reading into it, romanticizing it a little bit more. And then again, a lot of probably my bias is of like fan theories and how you get on Tumblr. I don't know if you guys are on Tumblr, but Tumblr that is the cesspool that it is. All the things, people like pointing things out. Really bad example was, Tactus and Rogue, like their relationship. I never really like read into it when I read it for the first time. And I was like, whatever. But then, you obviously hear like Rogue had said something, the fact that he was at Tactus's body, blah, 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 blah. Like, and it's something you don't see because it's obviously Dara's point of view. So you don't see it. Anyway, that's just me romanticizing.
There's an acknowledgement there that they're bisexual. Yeah.
More gays, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing we haven't touched on at all is Teacher. And Teacher is one of the most fascinating mysteries from this first book of like how he was constructed with like sacrificed souls and is kind of the placeholder for the Emperor here. And the Emperor is like far away in theory. And that's kind of Cirithia's whole thing is like drawing him back in so he can be weakened. Like, I don't what the fuck shit is all of this teasing?
No comment.
Yeah, right. But Teacher in particular is the one that strikes me and I'm still trying to work out. Yeah. I don't know. You maybe can't comment, Piéra, but PJ,
I just don't have any strong thoughts on him. Like, I honestly, until PJ brought it up before, which we have spoken about it.
Well, I know, but like we didn't really like,
they really kind of like, there was more. There could have been more to him. My like when you said that, my thought was because he was so many things in one that there was no specific. In my little brain, my tiny little pea brain, he's just like a bunch of heads inside a body. And they're like, are all just yelling at each other constantly. And so there's no defined personality because it's just a mishmash of, all of these. So, I mean, again, literally just a thought that I had in passing right then.
What if robot, but 50 souls? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't read into him too much. It was just very much a kind of, I'm here, like I'm the butler in this creepy house to like show you when mealtime is and like give you keys but not really tell you anything. Like you can ask me a direct question and I'll skirt around it and be really fucking annoying.
Yeah, we've pointed out that there's like a C-3PO in every book that we've read, and this is our C-3PO,
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no strong feelings on my end.
Fair.
I want more. I wish the talking piece of him was more personality driven a little bit. I wish there was something more to like really grip me as a character.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think that it was. My questions regarding Teacher are less him as a character, more him as an artifact inside of the plot. Like, okay.
I wouldn't have even called him like I forget that he was a character as opposed to like a piece of furniture or like a plot point. Or
that's why I forgot that we talked about him earlier. Yeah,
sure.
Barely exists. That's what it was. So I think that one of the things that the story does really well is a lot of the world building elements. One of the things that I love is the like sword differential, right? Like the idea that they go to rapiers because rapiers are not effective against skeletons and they're the only things that necromancers could use in theory is fascinating, I think. And the fact that Harrow now has this advantage because she's absorbed Gideon and has the training of an actual sword. She's studied the ways of a real sword. It's interesting. It's a...
But you forget. Gideon is a 6-foot beast with biceps.
True.
Is a small, dysentery skeleton wrapped in flesh. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I feel like the difference between like PJ wielding a 6-hander and me trying to wield a 6-hander is very different regardless of the experience. I don't know. That's just me.
Fair. I was just imagining artificially inflated strength too, coming with some of the necromancy.
You would assume so, yeah.
Yeah.
But in theory, it does that make Anthe also some sort of beast with the sword?
With a rapier, perhaps, but not a full two-hander.
Just a sword in general. Just any sort of, give a nerd a sword.
But big
Are they still a nerd?
Are they still a nerd? If a nerd has a sword, are they still a nerd or are they a knight?
So what I'm getting out of this is, in our dynamic, Crossland's the necromancer and I'm the cavalier, right?
Yes.
Like, that's got to be the case.
And Piéra is the lictor, and someone has died.
I'm out here eating flesh and bone.
Yeah, right.
Nibbling on hairs.
Get my strength up. Absolutely. God, I'm so excited for you guys to read book 2. Holy shit. Sorry. Yeah. Like, whereas, with Red Rising, we'd all read the series, like, we're all on the same sort of page.
Right.
I know things in my brain that I want to yell at you. So I'm very excited. So,
yeah.
Anyway, yes, count me in for anything Harrow related.
Definitely. Okay, so in a couple of months, we'll put it that way. Yeah. Absolutely. Any other questions? Did you have anything lingering that you wanted to ask us about the book series? Like thoughts going into the next one? Or you fired off a couple of good ones? Yeah.
Thoughts going into the next one? Just if you can get your hands on a hard copy,
that'll happen.
I would say read that first, or at least just find a way to look up the fucking character list at the start. Because even in that there's this, I forget what chapter it is, but there is this one chapter that in my brain, like I was at the grocery store as well. And like audibly, as a reveal happened, I audibly went, holy fuck. And I remember a small child staring directly at me and the mother just glaring at me in the middle of Target or something ridiculous because it was just so good. And I'm not going to spoil, like, if those are two different thought trains, but try and get your hands on a hard copy or at least read the character thing first. And also, I don't know about you guys, but the reason I don't do audiobooks is because I like seeing the word, whether it's a character name and I know then how to spell it, or if it's a word that I don't understand, I don't know the meaning of, but you break it down and you kind of understand
context.
Yeah. You know what like the first part of it is. And so it's easier for me to then, which with these books I really struggle with, which is why I had to read them first. And even listening to Harrow the first time, I didn't understand a lot of it because I couldn't visualize the word and therefore couldn't kind of build off of it. I don't know if that happens for you guys. Like, again, tiny dumb pea brain. But yeah, that's kind of all I would say. And just prepare yourself. Prepare. Because it is different. And you thought book 1 was hard. Ha ha. Ha ha, friends. Ha ha.
Fair enough.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show. This was, exactly. Like every time you want to come talk shit, we talk so much shit in our DMs. It's amazing.
If you'll have me, I'll be there.
Yeah, of course. And we'll definitely have you back for that. And then if any obtuse Red Rising things come up, of course, we'll do that.
Always. Did you see book 6 has the editor? Or something like that?
Yeah. The second draft technically is back with an editor.
Anyway. Thank you guys for having me again. I very much appreciate it. I always look forward to it.
Where can people find you on the internet? Where's the best place to find you?
At the moment, fucking nowhere. Just kidding. Sorry. YouTube, Instagram. I'm on TikTok now. But TikTok is where I put my mom content because it's the only thing that is saving my sanity at the moment between nap schedules, having my tits sucked on in like not a fun way, and changing shitty nappies. So I'm going to try and start doing book reviews again because I have started reading again, sort of reluctantly.
Reading again.
I say reluctant, like I don't know what it fucking is, but like having a kid, man, sucks the brain capacity out of you. Like I can't read. I don't have the ability to escape anymore. Is what I put it down to. So don't have kids if you like reading.
Fair. Okay, that's reasonable.
It's a ringing endorsement for children.
Exactly. Make your pick wisely. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.